Technology preview of 2014? Don't you worry. Investor Beat starts now. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Hill, joined in studio by technology senior analyst and bureau chief Evan Niu. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Before we look ahead to 2014, let's do a little bit of looking back on 2013. This is the industry you study most closely. What stands out as sort of the big story of the year for you?
I think we talked a little bit about this before, but I think there's been a big shift in investor and consumer sentiment away from these kind of hardware-centric plays into more service-type companies. You know, if you look at the biggest companies on the hardware side, probably be Apple and Samsung. Right now, Apple's trading at 3 times sales. Samsung is trading at 1 time sales. I mean, there's just not a lot of respect right now. Whereas you have companies like Facebook trading at 20 times sales, Yelp is at 23, Pandora's at 9, Twitter went public at 55. You know, all these services companies are just getting much more respect and much better valuations. If you look at why, as far as the actual devices go, the most popular types of devices are going to be PCs, smartphones, tablets. PCs, we all know, is kind of in the dumps. We've heard that all year long. This year is supposed to be biggest drop annually, 10% unit decline. Smartphones, there's been a lot of saturation on the high end. Price competition is driving growth to the low end, and there's just simply not a lot of money to be made down there. Tablets are growing very nicely, but they're still very small relative to the other categories, so it's hard to make that meaningful. So I think that's kind of where some of the challenges are, and we'll have to see going forward if that changes the dynamic at all.
People always like to think about who's the person of the year. Time Magazine, Fortune. I think Fortune had Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, as their business person of the year. Within the technology industry, who stands out to you as the business person of the year?
I would say probably, if I have to go with Mark Zuckerberg. So if you look at Facebook, before I start, let me start with a quote here from Mark Zuckerberg. Finally, this is from an October 2012 earnings conference call last year, right? So I said, finally, I want to dispel this myth that Facebook can't make money on mobile. This may have seemed true earlier this year because we hadn't started trying yet, right? So if you look
They also hadn't made any money earlier in 2012.
So at that point, the whole thing of 2012 was like, oh, Facebook can't do mobile, this big risk factor, what happens, et cetera. On that particular earnings call, Facebook had generated 14% of ad revenue from mobile, and it was just starting to begin to ramp up. Now, right now, we're a little bit over a year after that, and so let me back up a second. That quarter, he was at 150 million in revenue and mobile ad revenue. Last quarter, it was 49% of ad revenue, which is almost $900 million. So in dollar terms, that's a 6x ramp in just over a year. So I think that he's really, he made a promise to shareholders last year, I can do mobile. This year, he absolutely delivered on that promise. So I think that, he's really, Facebook is this app where you just idly kill time on your phones, and that's a dream to advertisers.
When I think about technology in 2014, I want to say flying delivery drones are going to be the thing. But I think that's probably like if we're doing
That's 2015.
I was going to say 2016, 2017, we'll lock that in. But 2014, what are you expecting and what companies are you watching?
I mean, it might not come as a surprise to most people that know me, but Apple is obviously my favorite stock, and that's going to be one that I'm keeping a close eye on 2014. Certainly one of the most widely followed stocks in tech. It's the largest by market cap easily. And this year Apple has really lagged the overall market. It's about flat on the year. S&P is up like 25% or so. So I mean, definitely some underperformance there, and we really need to see if they can turn that around this next year as they kind of maybe some of this confidence comes back, like we've been talking about. Very interested to see what they do on the capital return side of it, because early 2014 is when they'll announce any changes. I expect to see some more buybacks. I wonder if they'll issue even more debt to kind of lower their cost of capital even further. A lot of talk about new product categories probably in the later half of the year. So I think Apple has a lot ahead of it. They just had, presumably, this China mobile deal is happening, and they just had the biggest carrier in Japan too. So I think they have a lot going for them right now. I want to see where they can come back to their all-time highs of 700.
Something tells me we'll be talking about Apple on this show in 2014. All right, for Evan Niu, I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.